Ms. Irene Quay.
Mr. Chairman, sir, I wish to call your attention to the management of medication waste in Singapore. As you are aware, escalating healthcare costs is a great concern for the Singapore budget. It is therefore imperative to use resources given to us as efficiently as possible. As we continue to ramp up our healthcare system with more infrastructure, manpower, funding and subsidy scheme to cater to the needs of our aging population, active steps must be taken to review the waste in our current healthcare system. This year, I understand that Zero Waste Singapore will be looking into food waste, plastic disposable waste, recycling efforts and business waste. It does not, however, include medication waste in its initiative. At this juncture, I would like to declare my interest as President of the Pharmaceutical Society of Singapore. Singapore faces a rapid aging population and as a consequence, patients with more chronic diseases. It is then inevitable that polypharmacy, which is the concurrent use of multiple medication by patients, overprescribing and oversupply has been identified as significant sources of medication waste. From past house visits by pharmacists to review medications of patients, high medication waste was noted largely due to expired drugs, drugs prescribed without indication, or duplication of drug therapy. One local hospital estimated the drug wastage cost detected during the pharmacist's home visit at $663 per patient. Hypothetically speaking, if a pharmacist is given the resource to visit 10 patients a week over a one-year period to perform a full reconciliation, the total potential drug saving can amount to at least 330,000, with 176,000 and 153,000 in savings in subsidy and out-of-pocket saving respectively. A recent patient survey conducted by the National University of Singapore Pharmacy Department and the National Cancer Centre Singapore over a 2-week period also reviewed resolution of patient medical conditions, medication expired at home, and patients no longer requiring their medication as top reason for unused medication in their household. Such medication hoarding translates to significant potential healthcare cost saving if we are able to curb the current issues of overprescribing, oversupplying, and polypharmacy. Apart from incurring high costs, overprescribing, oversupplying, and medication waste also lead to issues of inappropriate medication disposal and environmental pollution. Medication waste comprise of both hazardous and non-hazardous waste, controlled drug, and expired pharmaceuticals. Currently, the most common way for individuals to dispose of medications is through the outlet of household waste. The patient survey mentioned above showed that 75.4% of patients surveyed throw their medication waste in a trash bin, with 5% throwing into a sink or flushing down the toilet. 58.7% of patients surveyed are not aware of the correct method for medication disposal. Failure to ensure safe disposal of drugs can lead to environmental risks as medications which enter the environment can have corrosive effect, especially on our local marine life. This in turn will adversely affect other species. I understand that most wastewater treatment facilities cannot filter out these drugs. I would like to request that NEA carry out checks to verify if our water treatment facilities have such capabilities and if disposal of drugs by flushing down the toilet or sink pose a risk in Singapore. A case in point would be the potentially careless disposal of cytotoxic drugs, a group of medications that contain chemicals that are toxic to cells. They are used as part of chemotherapy regime for cancer treatment. These drugs are also widely used in the treatment of other chronic diseases. Cytotoxic drugs affect cell function and have the ability to alter DNA and cause chromosome damage. Thus, they are teratogenic, carcinogenic, and mutagenic in nature. Antibiotics, if inappropriately discarded, can also enter our ecosystem and promote resistance to bacteria and fungus, leading to increased rate of infection that are difficult to treat. This is a vicious cycle which we cannot afford to risk happening and should be avoided at all costs. Accidental drug overdose is also one of the most common sources of household injuries. Young children are especially vulnerable to unintentional exposure to prescription or over-the-counter medications. As such, drugs should be safeguarded closely and gotten rid of safely when no longer needed. Inappropriate disposal of drugs can also potentially lead to diversion for illicit use. From my experience as a pharmacist volunteer at a local hospice, it is not uncommon to see controlled drugs in bags of medication waste. I propose that MOH consider funding to support pharmaceutical services such as medication review and reconciliation, as well as de-prescribing efforts. The potential savings from an earlier study show considerable cost effectiveness of reimbursing a pharmacist for such services. Regarding solutions to safe disposal, we can look to countries like Canada and United States, which has special government services offering to take back and dispose unused or expired drugs. This take-back program should be studied and implemented in Singapore. The Drug Enforcement Administration in the United States created the National Prescription Drug Take-Back Days that occur biannually in April and October. These take-back days are part of a mission to create safe medication disposal sites, prevent drug diversion or transfer of prescribed drugs for illicit use, as well as to provide education for the public. Our local survey mentioned above also showed that our patients are supportive of such disposal sites. MOH, HSA, MHA and NEA should make efforts to support such drug take-back campaigns through collaboration with hospital and community pharmacies. This will provide a channel for patients to return and safely dispose unwanted drugs, particularly cytotoxic drugs, antibiotics and substance of abuse. MOH and NEA may also consider collaboration with pharmacists to support patient education efforts in minimizing medication waste. For example, when prescribed with new medication, collection should be limited to 2 to 4 weeks' worth of supply. This is to prevent wastage in case of adverse effects or if the medication proves unsuitable or ineffective. For medication taken on a when-used basis, to obtain them in small quantity and purchase more only when necessary. For long-term medication, consider collection in installment. For example, to collect 3 months' worth of supply each time to minimize wastage. MOH may like to consider funding charges for home delivery or self-collection lockers to encourage installment collection instead of collecting large supply at a go. This may turn out to be more cost-effective in the long run. It is my sincere hope that my suggestions to reduce medication waste and to improve cost-effectiveness of our healthcare system be deliberated with all due consideration. Thank you.